Yeah, I think that the only people who really know are Kwesi adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell. Would I be surprised if the Vikings were making phone calls? Of course not. If something like that were to happen, it would be beyond ideal scenario.
Welcome into another Purple Insider Extra. Jonathan Harrison here, joined once again by Purple Insider's Matthew Coller. Now that we're finally within the week of the draft and the dust will finally be settled and all the draft rumors will finally stop, I want to discuss one last time, Matthew Coller, the most pressing issue on the Vikings roster, the quarterback. Is there a possibility of the Vikings making a trade up in the draft for one of the top QBs? We've talked plenty over the past couple months about a possible trade down, but over the weekend, rumors and speculation, reputability questionable on some of those sources, started trickling around the NFL that the Vikings could make or possibly have already started making calls about trading up into the higher parts of the draft. Is it likely?
Yeah, I think that the only people who really know are Kwesi adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell. That even a lot of times when it comes to the NFL draft, they aren't telling everyone in the front office. And I remember the story about when Trey Lance was taken by the 49ers, that the only people who knew who they were taking were John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan and no one else. Maybe Kyle Shanahan's family, but probably even not. I think maybe even not. Maybe he didn't even tell Mike Shanahan. That's how much teams want to keep internal these things with the draft. And that's why year after year, we see all these mock drafts that have, like last year, Malik Willis going high or Matt Corral or Desmond Ritter, and they don't come to fruition. Now, a lot of times the mock community is in the ballpark, and there's enough that ends up out there and enough former scouts and former GMs who give us a general outline of how it's going to go. But go back and look at anybody's mock from last year, 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, and you'll just kind of laugh because none of those things actually ended up happening. So as dialed in as people are, until it actually goes down, you're always going to say, look, we didn't really know. And if somebody guessed right, then they guessed right. But it's very, very difficult to pinpoint what a team is going to do. Would I be surprised if the Vikings were making phone calls? Of course not. I mean, they are in a position where they need a future quarterback. And so all these connections that are being made are pretty obvious. Like, who could be the quarterback that's fifth off the board? Well, Hendon Hooker. Could they trade up? Of course they could. They need their future quarterback. So if they really like some of these prospects, and I think that CJ Stroud, Bryce Young, and Anthony Richardson stand above the rest of the prospects in this group. But, Will Levis is kind of on the outside of that, but I think he's also a first round caliber prospect. If any of those four are projected to drop down a little bit, or if they think, you know what, this guy is worth giving up everything we have for the next 3 years in draft capital to move up with Arizona, who I think desperately wants to move back. But do they want to move all the way back to 23? That would be a question, because I think other teams will be making phone calls. So yeah, there's all these crazy rumors that are going around, and people are trying to guess to kind of be first on what's going to happen. But I think it's only the Vikings that know. It's just common sense that they would be really looking into any option or any possibility that would result in them getting an elite prospect in this draft because of the way Kirk Cousins' contract is set up.
Also, since we're already on the quarterback question, Peter King does one mock draft every year. He released his this week and has Anthony Richardson dropping to the Vikings at 23. What is your reaction to that? And if that happens on draft night, does the Minnesota sports team just crumble in excitement?
Yeah, and I looked last year. Peter King had Kenny Pickett 20th. He did nail that. So yeah, that was
So
kind of
you're
like
telling me
his.
there's a chance.
I think that was actually his surprise a little bit pick, and he ended up getting it right. So maybe this is his surprise that he ends up getting right, but I don't know. I mean, I think that everybody's kind of taking a swing for it. That's what this time of year is about. Everyone's playing the lottery to see if they can get the right pick when it comes to any of these, and we never know. But if that were to happen, it would be the utmost ideal situation. I don't see how it's possible. A prospect of that caliber who had the best combine ever. And also, I think some of the criticisms of his performance are overstated. He was one of the best deep ball passers. He rarely took sacks. He is a prolific, potentially all-time great runner at the quarterback position. I mean, these are not things that, and also he's young and he has room to develop. Like, these are not things that teams usually pass up when there's someone who has superstar potential. So getting to 23 would be just mind-blowing for Richardson. I don't think it was for Malik Willis that people have made that comparison. I don't think it was, because Malik Willis struggled so much with pocket presence. He had much more experience than Anthony Richardson does, and he was not of the size of Anthony Richardson, even though he did have a strong arm and was quick. So anyway, the point just being that if something like that were to happen, it would be beyond ideal scenario. I mean, it would be the freak athletic quarterback with major upside that they can develop to pair with Justin Jefferson and a growing offensive line, 2 great tackles. I mean, you just couldn't ask for anything better, and a quarterback who clearly needs to sit for an entire year before he gets in.
That's been another Purple Insider Extra for Bring Me the Sports. Be sure to rate, review, and subscribe to the Purple Insider Podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Talk to you next time.